The morning sun was shining over Gangnam High School, warm light falling across the tall school building, students chatting loudly as they walked through the front gate, some laughing with friends, some running because they were late, while others stood near the entrance talking about the latest gossip. Gangnam High School was famous for many things: good grades, rich students, strong sports teams, and one more thing that nobody liked to talk about: Policeum students ruled the school like kings. They took lunch money, picked fights, pushed weaker students around, and nobody dared to stop them. Teachers pretended not to see everything, students pretended not to hear everything. Life continued as normal. Then a black car stopped outside the school gate. Many students turned their heads. A boy stepped out, looked small, very small. His black hair fell softly over his forehead. His pale skin made him look fragile, and his large dark eyes gave him an innocent appearance. He looked like the type of student who would apologize even when something was not his fault. A weak boy, a harmless boy, someone who could never survive in a rough school like this. The students immediately started whispering, "Who is he? He looks younger than us. He looks like he will cry if someone shouts at him. Poor guy." The boy quietly adjusted his school bag and looked up at the giant school building. His expression was calm, very calm, as if nothing in the world could surprise him. His name was Kang Min-jun, a transfer student. At least that was what everyone knew. Nobody knew the truth. Nobody knew that in his old village people called him a monster. Nobody knew that he had been expelled from several schools. Nobody knew that he was undefeated in hundreds of fights. Nobody knew that some adults were afraid of him. Nobody knew that he had once sent an entire gang to the hospital. Nobody knew that his name alone could make troublemakers nervous. Nobody knew any of it because Kang Min-jun looked too innocent, too harmless to work. Min-jun slowly entered the school. Students continued staring at him. Some girls thought he was cute, some boys thought he looked pathetic. Min-jun ignored everyone. A teacher soon arrived and guided him toward his classroom. The classroom door opened immediately. Dozens of eyes landed on him. The room became quiet. The teacher smiled. "Class, we have a new student." Min-jun stepped forward. His hands rested calmly by his side. "Please introduce yourself." Min-jun bowed slightly. "My name is Kang Min-jun. Nice to meet you." His voice was soft. Several girls immediately smiled. Some boys rolled their eyes. One student in particular looked at a tall boy sitting near the window. His name was Park Do-yeon, one of the biggest bullies in the second year. "That voice is softer than my little sister." The classroom exploded with laughter. Min-jun remained silent. Teacher quickly pointed toward an empty desk. "You can sit there." Min-jun quietly walked to his seat. The moment he sat down, whispers started again. Iverian was judging him. Iverian was measuring him. Iverian was deciding where he belonged. And unfortunately for Min-jun, someone had already decided. Park Do-yeon, to bully, grinned while staring at him like a wolf looking at a rabbit. Classes began to just talk. Its students took notes. Who was past it. Everything seemed normal until lunchtime arrived. The classroom quickly emptied. Its students rushed outside. Min-jun stayed behind for a moment. Then he stood and grabbed his lunch. As he stepped into the hallway, someone slammed into his shoulder. Crush's lunchbox fell. Food scattered across the floor. Several students ogred. Min-jun looked down, then slowly raised his head. Park Do-yeon was standing there rallying with three friends. "Oh." Do-yeon smirked. "My mistake. More." Lotta. Min-jun quietly knelt and began collecting his food. One of the boys kicked the lunchbox away. The metal container rolled across the hallway. Students stopped to watch. Nobody helped. Nobody spoke. Iverian knew who Do-yeon was. Nobody wanted trouble. Min-jun simply walked over and picked up the lunchbox. Again, still silent, still calm. That annoyed Do-yeon. Bullies enjoyed further, enjoyed crying. They enjoyed begging. Min-jun gave them nothing. The group followed him to the cafeteria. Assistants moved aside when they saw them coming. The atmosphere became tense. Min-jun found an empty seat and sat down. A moment later, splash. A bottle of juice poured over his head. Cold liquid dripped down his hair. The cafeteria erupted with laughter. Min-jun slowly blinked. His uniform was so Kida's lunch was ruined. Still a reaction. No, and Jer noticed nothing. Dooney leaned closer. "What are you going to do about it?" Min-jun quietly looked at him, then looked away. Laughter instantly became louder. "Coward, weakling, pathetic." The insults continued. Min-jun simply stood up and left the cafeteria. The bullies followed like hunters chasing prey. The entire afternoon became a nightmare. His books disappeared. His chair was kicked away. His notebook was thrown from window to window. Samian stuck papers to his book. Samian poured water into his book. Every time. Min-jun remained silent, more silent. He became the more interested. The bullies became the final class. The entire school was talking about the weak transfer student who never fought back. The student who never complained. The student who accepted everything. The Anwitholin student watched everything from a distance, sitting near the front of the classroom. Perfect posture, perfect uniform, perfect smiler. Hansia Junt, the class president. Teachers loved him, students respected him, parents praised him, was the ideal student, kind of, or least that was what everyone believed. As Seojin watched Minjun being bullied again, a faint smile appeared in his eyes, a strange smiley, a cold smiley that stopped everything right. No one word from him, and most students would listen, yet he remained silent, watching Rubistry if he was waiting for something or someone. His eyes followed Minjun all every movement, every expressionary reaction. The more he watched, the more interested he became, because something felt wrong. No matter how much bullying happened, Minjun never looked scared, never, not even answered that calmness, fascinated. Hyman Han Seojun always liked interesting things. The final bell rang. Students quickly packed their bags. Most were preparing to go home, but Park Doyeon had other plans. He blocked Minjun's path. His three friends standing beside him, their smiles looked cruel. Come with us. Minjun quietly looked at them. No answer. Doyeon grabbed his cloth. Classroom became silent. Several students looked away. Others pretended to pack their bags. Everybody wanted involvement. Minjun was dragged into an empty hallway near the old school building. The place was quiet, far from teachers, far from help. Perfect for bullying. The group surrounded Hyman, pushed him from behind. Another shoved him from the side. Doyeon grabbed his hair. Do you know your place now? The others logged. Minjun remained silent, his eyes lowered, his expression unreadable. Bullies became even angrier and kicked than another than another. Bullying continued, getting worse, much worse. Nebian Seojun quietly stood at the end of the corridor, watching me, eyes fixed on Minjun as if expecting something, as if searching for a hidden secret. Then suddenly our voice echoed through the hallway, a cold voice, an annoyed voice. 4 against 1, how pathetic. Everyone froze. Bullies turned. Han Seojun slowly narrowed his eyes and calm. Minjun finally lifted his head. Standing at the entrance of the corridor was another student, our Handang Repel, the most troublesome student in Gangnam High School, the student who hated roulette, the student who hated bullies, the student who hated almost everyone. Lee Hyun, with his sharp eyes, landed on Minjun and moved toward the police. A dangerous smile appeared on his face. Looks like I found some trash. The atmosphere instantly became heavy. The bullies frowned. Sejun silently watched. Minjun remained motionless, and for the first time since arriving at Gangnam High School, something interesting was about to happen. The hallway became silent. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. The cold evening wind passed through the open windows. Lee Hyun stood at the entrance of the corridor with his hands inside his pockets. His expression looked yet as if the bullying itself had offended him. Park Do-yeon frowned. What did you say? Hyun-woo slowly walked forward. His shoes echoed against the floor. I said, you are trash. The bullies immediately became angry. One of them stepped forward. Do you want to die? Hyun-woo gave a short laugh, a mocking laugh. Try it. The atmosphere became dangerous at the far end of the hallway. Han Seojun quietly watched everything. His eyes moved between Hyun-woo and Minjun, especially Minjun, because even though the transfer student looked home too calm, as if he was not surrounded by danger, as if he was watching a boring movie. Doyeon clicked his tongue with and pointed at Minjun. We are busy with this loser, get lost. Hyun-woo stopped walking. His eyes landed on Minjun for the first time. He carefully looked at the transfer student who had hair, bruised cheek, damaged uniform, yet strangely calm eyes. For a moment something felt strange, but Hyun-woo ignored it. Stepped forward again. I said, leave him alone. One of the bullies suddenly charged. His fist flew toward Hyun, but before it could connect, another hand grabbed the attic. Every froze, including Hyun, with hand belonged to Kang Minjun, the transfer student, weak boy victim, the one everyone thought could barely defend himself. His head remained lowered, his fingers tightly holding the bully's wrist. The hallway became completely silent. The bully tried pulling away. Nothing happened. His arm would not move. No, even a little confusion appeared on his face. What? Minjun slowly raised his head. His dark eyes looked different. No, innocence was gone. Weakness was gone. Fear was gone. For one brief moment Ivorian saw something terrifying, something something dangerous. Than Minjun smiled, a small smiley, a gentle smiley, kind smile everyone had seen all day, but somehow it felt much scarier. No, bully suddenly felt nervous. Nervous. Minjun tilted his head. You should stop. His voice remained soft. The bully laughed nervously. You crazy? Then he swung his other fist. Next second his body flew across the hallway, crashes smashed into a wall of area and stared. Nobody understood what had happened, and not even Hyun with entire fight. lasted less than a second. Moment. The bully was attacking. The next moment, he was on the ground groaning in pain. Silence, absorbed silence. Minjin adjusted his sleeves. If nothing had happened, the remaining bullies slowly stepped back, fear appearing in their eyes. Doyen shouted, "What did you do?" Minjin looked at him, then smiled again. "I protected myself." Nobody believed that answer, especially not Hyanwo, because he had seen many fights, hundreds of fights, and whatever Minjin just did, it was not normal. It was first too fast before anyone could react. Another bully rushed forward, then another, then another. 3 students attacked Minjin sighed softly, then moved. Nobody clearly saw it. Moment. He was standing still. The next moment, bodies were falling. Shoulder strike here, step, a twist, a kick, everything looked simply no wasted movement, no dramatic actions, just pure efficiency. Within seconds, 3 more students were lying on the floor, groaning. To stand. Shock filled the corridor. Students had gathered nearby. Everyone stared with wide eyes. The weak transfer student had destroyed 4 bullets, and he looked completely unharmed. Doyen finally panicked. His confidence disappeared. "You? What are you?" Minjin slowly approached, step making Doyen retrieve this face remained calm, which somehow made everything worse. Minjin stopped directly in front of him, then leaned closer. His voice became almost a whisper. "If you touch me again, I won't be so gentle." Doyun's face turned pale. His legs almost gave out for the first time in years. Mian had scared him, truly scared him. Minjin stepped back, then looked toward Hyan, where eyes met. Her entire hallway seemed to disappear. Neither spoke. Neither looked away. Hyunwoo narrowed his eyes. "So you were pretending?" Minjin tilted his head. "Pretending? You acted weak." Minjin smiled. "You assumed I was weak for some reason." That answer annoyed Hyanwoo very much, because it was true. He had judged Minjin immediately, just like everyone else. Somehow Minjin's calm expression made him even more irritated. Hyanwoo crossed his arms. "I don't like liars." Minjin looked directly at him. "I don't like heroes." A few nearby students gasped. Anybody talk to Hyanwoo like that? Nobody. At Minjin looked completely unbothered. Hyanwoo laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. It was a Kalanji, a warning, a promise. Interesting. Minjin simply turned away, then picked up his school bakers. If nothing important had happened, as if he had not just defeated 4 students, as if the entire school was not staring at him. Then he walked away, leaving everyone behind, including Hyanwoo, including Doyun, including Han Seojin. At the end of the corridor, Seojin watched Minjin disappear. His smile slowly returned, a dark smile, a dangerous smile. Finally he understood the transfer student was hiding something fascinating, something beautiful, something dangerous, and Han Seojin loved dangerous things very much. Manhwa walked toward the school, but the evening sky glowing orange above him for the first time since arriving at Gangnam High School felt slightly annoyed, because now Samini had noticed him. Actually, what people had noticed, Haimon was the troublesome rebel. Hyan with other was far more dangerous. Seojin, the Minjin, did not know it yet. Real monster of Gangnam High School was not him. The real monster was already watching from the shadows, and his eyes had already chosen a target. Minjin. The next morning, Gangnam High School was louder than usual. All students filled every hallway, every classroom, every staircase, and everyone was talking about the same thing. The transfer student, weak boy who was not weak, the innocent boy who had defeated 4 bullies, rumors spread faster than fire. Some students claimed he knew martial arts and claimed he was part of a gang. Some even claimed he was an underground fighter. Stories became more ridiculous with every hour, yet nobody knew the truth. Nobody knew who Kang Minjin really was. Meanwhile, the center of all the rumors quietly entered the classroom. As if nothing had happened, as if the entire school was not discussing him. Minjin sat down at his desk and opened his notebook. Several students immediately moved away. They secretly watched him. Nobody dared to approach him. The atmosphere felt strange. Yesterday everyone treated him like pre. Today they treated him like a wild animal. Then suddenly Somin dropped a chair beside him. Bang. Minjin looked up. Hyanwoo had arrived. The rebel sat backwards on the chair beside him, his arms resting on the backrest. This sharp eyes staring directly at Minjin. The entire classroom immediately became quiet. Everyone knew Hyanwoo. Very new trouble followed him everywhere. Hyunwoo spoke first. "You fight well." Minjin returned to his notebook. "Thank you. Where did you learn?" "No idea." Hyanwoo frowned. "No idea." Minjin nodded. "I just know." That answer only annoyed Hyanwoo more. For some reason, talking to Minjin always felt like punching a wall. Nothing worked, nothing affected him. Hyanwoo leaned closer. "You making fun of me?" "No, you Oh, you definitely are. No, several students nearby started laughing. Yunhua clicked his tongue for the first time in years. Mian was making him lose arguments, and the annoying part, Minjin was not even trying before Hyeonwoo could continue another. Voice entered the conversation, a gentle voice, a friendly voice. Good morning, everyone. Han Seojin entered the classroom, perfect uniform, perfect smile, perfect appearance. Set students immediately greeted him. Teachers trusted him. Students respected him. Was everyone's favorite. Tijun's eyes quickly found Minjun. A small smile appeared, then he walked over Minjun. Are you feeling better today? Minjun looked up. Yes. I heard you got hurt yesterday. It was nothing. Seojin smiled warmly. If you ever need help, tell me. Several students immediately became jealous. The class president was famous popular Stamith3. He was paying attention only to Minjun. Minjun politely nodded. Thank you. Hyeonwoo watched the interaction, silent. Something felt strange. Every strangey could not explain why, but seeing Seojin talk to Minjun irritated him. The feeling made no sense. It remained. The first classes soon began. His past teachers, lectured students, studied everything seemed normal until lunch break. Minjun quietly walked toward the cafeteria and stopped at Biscow. Someone was already waiting outside. Hyunwoo, come with me. No, why? Want lunch? You can eat later. No. Hyunwoo felt a headache coming. Was this guy so difficult? Before he could continue, another student arrived. And Seojin, Minjun, would you like to eat with me? Silence, absolute silence. Students nearby immediately stared at the class president and the school rebel standing in front of the transfer student. It looked ridiculous, almost like a competition. Nathan noticed it, perhaps. Both noticed. Yunwo folded his arms. He is eating with me. Seojin smiled. Since when? Since now? I don't remember. Minjun agreeing. The atmosphere immediately became tense, and Minjun looked at both of them, then slowly turned around and walked away alone, leaving both behind. Several students burst into laughter. For the first time ever, both Gangnam High School celebrities had been ignored at the same time. Highway stared at Minjun's back, then unexpectedly gave a real laugh, the first genuine laugh in days. That guy is impossible. Meanwhile, Lee Seung continued smiling, but his eyes became slightly darker, very slight, like change was smile almost invisible. It was there because Han Seojin hated being ignored, especially by people he wanted. That afternoon, another incident happened during sports class. Students were divided into teams. By coincidence, Semin and Hyunwoo ended up together. Game quickly became chaotic, not because they were losing, but because they kept arguing past the ball. No, what do you mean? No, I don't want to. That isn't how sports work. Then I dislike sports. Hyunwoo looked ready to explode death. Other students could barely stop laughing. The two of them argued constantly. It's strange. If he worked well together, the winner trouble appeared. They automatically supported each other without realizing it, without admitting it, without wanting it. Even their classmates noticed it. By the end of the day, everyone agreed on one thing: the Hyunwoo and Kang Minjun were rivals, natural enemies, people who could never get along. At least that was what everyone believed. That evening, as students left school, Minjun walked alone through a quiet street setting. Sun painted the road. In Githy City felt peaceful, and footsteps appeared behind him. Slow walk and delivery stopped without turning around. Already knew who it was. And Seojun, the class president, stopped a few steps away. His smile remained gentle as always. I wanted to walk with you. Minjun finally looked at him for a brief moment. The spooky street became strangely quiet, and Seojun smiled again. You know, you are very interesting. Minjun narrowed his eyes slightly. The first sign of caution, the first sign of discomfort. Something about Seojun felt wrong, not dangerous, not just wrong. Seojun noticed the reaction and secretly enjoyed it very much, because, unlike everyone else, Minjun had sensed something, a tiny crack beneath the perfect mask, and that only made Seojun want him more, far more. As the evening sun disappeared, first real battle had already begun. A battle nobody could see. The battle for Kang Minjun's heart, and neither Hyunwoo nor Seojun had any intention of losing. The rumors started 3 days later, small whispers at first, then louder than impossible to ignore. Students gathered in corners, phones passed from hand to hand, secret conversations filled every hallway. Something had happened, something serious. Nobody knew where the information came from, but suddenly everyone was talking about Kang Minjun. As old school shiz, expulsion shiz, fight shiz, violent past pictures appeared, and lineal photographs, broken discs, destroyed classroom, students lying on the ground after fights, and standing in the middle of every picture was Kang Minjun, the innocent transfer student, weak boy, victim. The monster shock spread through Gangnam High School. Students who once pitied him became afraid. Students who admired him became nervous. Teachers started watching him. Even parents began making complaints. Minjin sat quietly in class while everyone whispered around him. Had expected this day sooner. All the earthy past always returned to the classroom door. Suddenly up and a teacher entered. Minjin, the principal wants to see you. The entire class became silent. Minjin stood without saying a word, without showing any emotion. Then he left. The unruh watched him cause something felt wrong, very wrong for a moment. Minjin disappeared. Whispers exploded. He got expelled from 5 schools. I heard he almost killed someone. They say he fought gangs. He is dangerous. He should leave. The comments continued and continued and continued. Manhwa clenched his fist for some reason. Hearing people talk about Minjin like that irritated him more than it should. Much more. Meanwhile, the principal's office, several teachers sat around a table, serious face, cold expressions like judges preparing a sentence. The principal sighed. Minjin, can you explain these rumors? Minjin remained silent. Silence itself became an answer. To room grew colder. Are they true? A long pause. Then most of them. Several teachers immediately frowned, and teachers slammed a hand onto the desk. This is exactly why students are afraid. Minjin simply listened without defending himself, without arguing, without explaining, because no explanation would matter. People only saw the fights. Nobody ever asked why they happened. The meeting continued, and by the end a decision was made. Minjin would remain at school, but one more incident and more fight and he would be expelled. The news spread within horse. Now everyone knew very except one person, because somebody already knew everything. Didn't see a junkie source of the rumors, the person who leaked every photograph story, every secret. And Noe stood alone inside an empty classroom, looking at Minjun's old philosopher. Smile slowly forming a dark smile, a terrifying smile. Now everyone will stay away from you. His fingers gently touched one photograph. Minjin standing alone, a bruised, covered in blood, looking completely exhausted. Zejin's smile widened. Except me, his obsession had already become dangerous, very dangerous. That of any grain began falling over sea. Heavy rain, cold rain. City became dark. Minjin sat alone beneath a bust office school bag resting beside him. Water falling from the roof, cars passing through the wet streets. For the first team, her looked tired, not physically. A itinerary of running, years of fighting, years of starting over, was exhausted. Then another figure appeared, holding an umbrella. Lady High and Minjin looked surprised. Why are you here? Hangwu shrugged. I was nearby. It was an obvious. Both knew it. Neither mentioned it for several moments. The rain spoke. Ethan Hyangwu sat beside him. Silence. Again comfortable silence here. Strange silence. Then Hyangwu finally spoke. You know, I don't care. Minjin looked at him. What? Your past? The words were simple, but they hit harder than any punch. Manhua looked forward, watching the rain. You fight. So what? You got expelled. So what? You scare people. So what? Minjin stared at him, unable to answer for the first time. Simeon was looking at him, not his reputation, not his strength, not his past. Just something strange happened inside his chest. Something dangerous. Nitha noticed how close they were sitting. Nitha noticed how the world felt quiet as Malorose. If only the two of them existed. Then suddenly a loud crash echoed nearby. Bath immediately stood. Several men appeared at the end of the street, large men, dangerous looking men, and all of them were staring directly at Minjin. Minjin's expression changed. Instant light warmth disappeared. Calm disappeared. Cocken appeared. The men grinned and stepped forward. Found you. High and we frowned. Friends of yours? No. Minjin's answer came immediately. The men laughed and cracked his knuckles. We have been looking for you. The atmosphere became heavy, very heavy. Hyunwoo looked at Minjin for the first time. Saw genuine concern in his eyes, not fear. Concern for him. Leave, Minjin said quietly. You frowned. What leave? The rain continued falling. The men continued approaching, and for the first time since arriving at Gangnam High School, Minjin looked truly dangerous, like a sleeping beast finally waking up. The leader smiled. Your old enemies miss you. A cold chill ran through the air. Then another voice suddenly appeared, a familiar voice, a smiling voice, a voice that should not have been there. Looks like I arrived at the perfect time. Minjin's eyes widened. You turned and standing beneath a black umbrella, smelling peacefully, was Hansia jumped the class president, but this time something was wrong. To be wrong. His smile looked different. His eyes looked different. The mask was cracking. Then for the first time both Minjin and Hyam were realized that the most dangerous person in Gangnam High School was not the transfer student. Chapter 5. The boy who finally found Homiti rain continued falling. Cold water poured from the dark sky. Street lights reflected on the wet road. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. The atmosphere felt heavy as if the entire city was holding its breath. Minjin stood between Hyun-woo and the approaching men. His eyes never left them, and Han Seo-jun quietly stood beneath his umbrellas. Melinjinzi every second. One of the men laughed. So this is where you ran. Another stepped forward. We searched for months. Hyun-woo looked at Minjin. Who are they? A long silence followed. Then Minjin finally answered. The people from my past. The men grenadiers, if they had won us, if they had already caught their prey. But Minjin's expression remained calm because he already knew something they did not, was no longer the same boy they remembered. The leader pointed toward him. Come with us. No. The answer came immediately. Telesiflim smiled, disappeared from the man's physique. Group began approaching step by step. Slowly 380 rain continued falling. Then suddenly Hwaiwa stepped beside Minjin. His shoulders relaxed, his hands inside his pockets as if none of this bothered him. Minjin frowned. I told you to leave. Hyun-woo smirked. I don't take orders. This is dangerous. So what? Minjin stared at him. The exact same answer Hyun-woo had once given him. For the first time that night a tiny smile appeared on Minjin's face. The men charged the fight. Expededcos filled the street. Water splashed across the pavement. The attackers rushed forward, but Minjin moved first. Fast control spray of training guided every movement, every step, every reaction. The first attacker lost his balance and crashed onto the wet road. The second was pushed as a death. Third stumbled backward. The fight became a blur of movement. Train Shatovst refused to stand still. He joined the fight without hesitation, protecting Minjin's blind spots, blocking attack, helping whenever he could. For the first time they fought together, not as rivals, not as enemies, as partners. The realization surprised both of them. Even in the middle of the chaos they understood each other perfectly. The attackers slowly realized something. If the boy would abandon the other, not tonight, not ever. To battle continued. Rain becoming heavier, the street becoming emptier, until finally the attackers began retreating. Going by one, their confidence broken. Their plan destroyed. Lee declared at Minjin, this isn't over. Minjin looked directly at him. It is. Something in his eyes made the man hesitate. Then slowly the group disappeared into the darkness, leaving only silence behind. Rain softened. The street became quiet. And Hwaiwa let out a long breath that was annoying Minjin. Logged actually logged a real laugh, not a fake smile, and not a polite response, a genuine laugh. And Hyun-woo stared at this. It was the first time he had ever seen it. Then suddenly a clap echoed through the street. Both boys turned. Han Seo-jun slowly stepped forward, still smiling, still calm, as if everything had gone exactly as planned. His umbrella fell onto the ground. His smile remained, but the mask was finally gone completely. Beneath kind class president no longer existed. Only Han Seo-jun remained, the real Han Seo-jun. I must admit, you continue surprising me. Minjin narrowed his eyes. You leaked my past. Seo-jun smiled. Yes, you spread the rumors. Yes, you manipulated everything. Yes, the answers came without hesitation, without shame, without regret. You looked disgusted. What is wrong with you? Seo-jun laughed softly, then looked directly at Minjin. I wanted everyone else to leave. I wanted you alone. The words sounded calm, but they carried years of obsession, years of loneliness, years of unhealthy desire. Rain continued falling around them. Seo-jun's smile slowly trembled for the first time. Pain appeared in his eyes, real pain. I thought if everyone hated you, you would stay beside me. Silence followed. A sad silence ever cows beneath all the manipulation of the lease order. Obsession was simply a lonely persona, broken person who chose the wrong part. Minjin stared at him, then quietly shook his head. That isn't love. The words hit harder than any punch. Seo-jun froze. Love is not possession. Love is not control. Love is wanting someone to be happy, even if they choose someone else. His smile slowly disappeared from Seo-jun's face. For the first time, her looked theatrically defeated, not angry, not done to roost. Tired. A long silence followed. Then Seo-jun looked at Hyun-woo. Answer already, obviously choice already. Medea said smile. A real smile, this Timino, a fake one, not a mask, just homestyle. Perhaps for the first time in years. Then he turned around and walked away into the rain, leaving everything behind. Obsession, the least game, everything. The storm was finally over. Weeks passed, then months. Life slowly returned to normal. Gangnam High School changed. Its students stopped whispering, stopped judging, stopped fearing this. They finally learned the truth. Minjin was strong, but he was also kind, protective. Extratal rumors slowly disappeared. Fear disappeared, and for the first time in many years, Minjin was accepted, not because people feared him, not because people admired him, but because they understood him. You knew he remained exactly the same, still annoying, still stubborn, still impossible, yet somehow he was always nearby every lunch break, every class, every walk home, every ordinary day, until one afternoon they found themselves sitting beneath a tree behind the school, the same place where they often escaped noisy classmates. As the wind moved gently through the leaves, the sky looked beautiful. PC Flakely looked up. You know, Hyanwu glanced toward him. What, you are still annoying? Hyanwu laughed, and you are still difficult. For several seconds near the spaghetti, and Hyanwu reached for his hand, slow like Harrow Flickly him the choice, giving him Tim and Minjin, looked at their hands, turned at Hyanwu, and smiled the warm, smiley, genuine smiley smile. He only showed around one person, and he held Hyanwu's hand, a simple moment, a small moment, yet somehow it felt bigger than every fiery rumor, every battle, every painful memory, because for the first time King Minjin was not a naive boy who had spent years running, years fighting, years surviving, had finally found a place where he belonged, not because he was strong, not because he was feared, but because he was loved. The sunset painted the sky gold. Students laughed in the distant future waited ahead. Warmerfeld. As Minjin sat beside the person who had become his home, he realized something important. His story had never been about fighting. His story had never been about strength. His story had always been about finding someone who stayed to me and who understood someone who saw every broken piece and never turned away. For the first time in his life, King Minjin felt at peace, and this team was finally home. The end.